Welcome to the Mostly Pod Out at Night. Mostly, I am Graveyard, joined by my co-host Salem.
Hello.
This is episode 62 of our weekly All Things Horror podcast, but this month in particular, it'll be 2 episodes a week for our October Extravaganza. Now, last year, we did end up watching 31 movies for 31 days. This year, we're not going to go that extreme. We're still going to do a lot, don't get me wrong, because there's been a lot of franchise stuff that has come out. And we have catch-ups for VHS and all this other stuff. But tonight, we will be discussing the Massacre 2023 movie marathon. So I think it was like episode 8 of last year that we covered the first Massacre movie marathon that we went to. And we figured we would just do a short little thing this year again for everyone, just kind of give our thoughts and, you know, what was different from last year, and just brief discussions over the movies. And you'll see why briefly, because the movies that we ended up watching were Slumber Party Massacre, Reanimator, and Black Christmas. And we did cover Black Christmas as part of our holiday specials last year. So we're not going to do any ratings this year. And because, well, Slumber Party Massacre and Reanimator are part of a franchise that we will eventually get to. Slumber Party Massacre, well, yeah, it's not going to be a fun franchise to watch, to say the least.
I mean, the first one isn't bad.
No. Second one, like I said, when we get to it, is just, I mean, we'll get into your initial thoughts and why you haven't seen Slumber Party Massacre.
Oh, right.
Which is rare, and we'll discuss that as well. Black Christmas, kind of like the lack of viewing people that were there, I think, for it. But let's dive into Slumber Party Massacre. So right off the bat, you know, we sponsored Texas Chainsaw Massacre last year. It was, you know, John Dugan was there. So it's pretty cool that, you know, the original grandpa from Texas Chainsaw was there for the movie that we had sponsored. This year we sponsored Black Christmas, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But Brink Stevens from Slumber Party Massacre and, you know, Sorry Bates was Slamorama, and realistically like 250 other things was the special guest this year. So yeah, you know, standard kind of questions and discussion over Slumber Party Massacre is, you know, for anyone who hasn't seen it, it is surprisingly very feminist in a lot of its stuff, despite, you know, lots of female nudity.
A lot,
yes, and
extensive.
Yes, and it was written. I don't think it was written. I think it was Roger Corman's desk, but it was directed by, and I think partially written by a female writer and director.
Well, yeah, I think the original script Corman had, but it was one of those ones that he wasn't going to do himself, so he just handed it off, and they rewrote it. And it was a woman. And it was a woman that rewrote it.
Yeah,
and it was a woman who directed.
Yes. And as Brink stated in the Q&A last night, that, you know, it was the 80s. You had to show some TNA, especially in these movies, because she said, you know, the core audience were college boys.
Well, I mean, that's the thing about the 80s is like almost every movie. If you have, I mean, even a lot of times in PG-13 movies have nudity.
Oh, Airplane from the 70s was PG and had nudity.
Right. Well, I mean, that's a rarity. But I'm just saying, like, PG-13 regularly had rarity, and like rated R was like standard. There was always at least one nudity scene everywhere.
Yes.
I mean, they'd have like Police Academy.
Yes.
You know, there would be like a random nudity. I get it. It was just the way it was in the 80s. That was like a selling point of coming to see a movie because, you know, I mean, the video home market was coming out at that time, right? And it was a reason for you to, it was a reason for you to watch it at home, and a reason for you to go to the theater and watch it. It was, you know, because porn was not as hard, not as easy to come by back then as it was now. So they just put a little bit in like mainstream stuff, so people get their fix of it.
Yeah, and you know, with the driller killer, you know, in this, you know, the drill was a euphemism for his, you know, obviously penis, and killing girls, and, you know, he's a little crazy, but
he was killing men with it too.
Oh yes. But as Brink pointed out, you know, that she had to do it, and it was very, very apparent during the movie, like, because it's like, oh, here's, you know, 20 girls in the shower. let's slowly pan over. Oh, turn around, show your boobs for the camera, turn back around, then pan down to the ass, and then up and then back down to the next one, and over and over and over.
Yeah.
Which is, like I said, it's weird, especially because it being written directed by female, as Brink pointed out, they knew this is what they had to do. And I thought it was interesting because she was talking about this, came out in 81, that this was kind of before the video nasties and the straight to VHS, as we have discussed before, that this was kind of like one of the last films of the 80s to be filmed on film versus, video cassette.
Yeah, I believe she said it was, I think, one of the only movies that she filmed on actual film.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was interesting. This is being now a 42-year-old movie. A couple people have died from the movie. It is getting up there in age, and she's talking about that she was supposed to play one of the main girls in the movie, but she had a scheduling conflict, so she ended up being like one of the first kills.
Right, yeah, she was the one that died in the school before the slumber party even starts.
Yes.
So the only one that beat her was the telephone repair lady.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I found it very interesting, getting some of this insight to stuff, because I feel like, the John Dugan story we got last year about him being on the ground and poking the chicken in the cage because it was perfectly content in it for that scene, that, to be able to talk to these, not us personally, but have these people have a short Q&A before the movie they're in and kind of learn more behind the scenes stuff, because, they aren't the leading people necessarily of these movies, but they do have stories. What did you feel about the Q&A? Do you think it could have been longer, better, or do you find it just interesting overall?
No, I think it was about the right length of time,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were kind of trying to stick to their timetable, and I think they were like dead on. This year they were dead on. Like they started at like exactly the times they were originally supposed to. Some of the things, I've been to in the past, sometimes it's off, whatever, 5-10 minutes, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But no, I think it was like a perfect length of time. And she went into stuff that was not in that movie, and her career in general and other people that she knew and, just experiences in the industry. I think it was overall, I think it was great.
Yeah. I last year went over because, well, John Dugan is a crazy dude and just had so many stories to tell.
Yeah, it was just kind of rambling, but that's to be expected, I suppose.
Right.
I think one of the ones I went to before that, I mean, obviously it's not horror based, but it's the same guys that did it. They did the Sci-Fi Spectacular, and it was the Road Warrior, and Vernon Wells was there. Vernon Wells being if you've seen the Road Warrior, the main Mohawk motorcycle bad guy is Vernon Wells, and his telling stories about being there was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean it's with us sponsoring, I hope that we help to be able to bring people like this to these things, right? I don't know how much honestly get paid. Her autographs were $20, and she did have photographs that she could sign, and her newest movie, because she did the sequel to Sorry Babes and Slime Ball-O-Rama, which number 2 came out, I think, this year or last year.
Yes, yeah, new-ish,
yeah. And it's great that she was still doing horror movies, and it's interesting that she talked about she wanted to be like essentially a marine biologist or environmental biologist and work with like sea creatures, but she ended up doing acting, and now she has 250 credits to her name.
Right, which is funny because almost everybody, they go to Hollywood and Los Angeles to be actresses, and a lot of them never get there. They
right.
They work really, really hard, and they on auditions and stuff, and they just never get there. And then she kind of just accidentally fell into it, which is
But it's great that she still enjoys doing it, and that she has no problems being in all the cheesy horror movies to this day. Because let's face it, Sorry Babe and Slime Ball-O-Rama 2, while I haven't seen it, is probably pretty damn cheesy.
I would assume so, considering the first one.
Yes. and I was able to get her autograph on my copy of the original movie DVD. So had I had it on Laserdisc, it had Slum Party Massacre been #1 been on Laserdisc, I would have gotten it just to get it signed. But I still think it's pretty cool to have that. So let's discuss, Slumber Party Massacre, and I want to get your initial thoughts and really what stopped you from seeing this to begin with. I know we discussed it on the way home this morning, technically.
Right.
So what was your initial thoughts, and obviously why you didn't watch it to begin with?
I mean, it's good. It's you take like the generic slasher of the time, and I think it's a little bit elevated above that.
Yeah.
It's definitely a good one. Definitely worth watching. But yeah, the reason I did not watch it is because I saw 2. Slumber Party Massacre 2. And if you haven't seen it, don't. It's not a good movie. It is terrible. It is, I mean, whatever. I can ruin it. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
There's somebody who survives the first movie is like the little sister, right?
Yep.
And then in the second movie, she's now the main character. Totally different actress. Like barely a link to the first one.
Yeah.
She has a dream about the driller killer from the first one.
And there's a flashback even to the first one.
Right, to the first one. And then somehow she brings to life the driller killer, but it's not the original driller killer. It is a new guy, like a weird, like rockabilly version of the driller killer who has the drill attached to the end of his guitar.
Yeah.
And now he is singing and dancing and like literally like little songs and stuff, like chasing women around a construction yard, killing them with the drill on the end of his guitar. It is ridiculous and it sucks. It is not good. It was one of those movies that, I was flipping around the channels at night and it was just on. I'm like, what is this? What is happening? I had to watch it. It's like a car crash. It's like,
yes,
I can't turn it off. I'm like, what is this? And it was so bad that I'm like, you know what? I don't think I need to watch the first one. I don't think I need to watch any more of this. I'm pretty much done. I've seen all I need to see about Slumber Party Massacre. That's it. That, and I don't know, sometimes you get corrupted sectors of your brain and you just can't remember things, or certain things get like mixed together.
Right.
Well, at least this franchise and Sleepaway Camp, for whatever reason, in my mind, are like the same. I could never. Whenever I think of one, I always think of the other. And then I'm like, oh, wait, no. That's the wrong thing. But again, I've never really watched either one of them. So I guess that's probably
why. Yeah, I mean, when the new Slumber Party Massacre came out a couple of years ago, you know what? I haven't watched these movies in a very long time. And I got them, and I'm watching them like, this is really, really bad. And there's also a spinoff, the Sorority House Massacre. There's like 4 of those by the same writer directors from the Slumber Party Massacre. And those are, I would say, arguably worse than the Slumber Party Massacre franchise.
Well, usually they get worse as they go along. But I mean, the drop in quality from 1 to 2 is enough to tell me I don't need to watch any of the rest of it.
Well, I feel like what happened with 2 was like all of a sudden, like music and rock and roll was prevalent in like the VHS tapes of the 80s, right? You had like Rock and Roll Massacre, a lot of stuff that dealt with rock music and killing. And they're just like, hey, I don't know if it's supposed to be like a parody of that crap at that point in time, or if they're really serious and try to make like a serious movie with.
Okay, that's fine if you do that, but how about don't make it 2?
Right.
Don't make it a sequel to an existing movie and then make it completely different. That like you're defeating the reason for making it a sequel. The sequel is supposed to be either adding on to or keeping with the theme of the original, right? That's supposed to be what the point is. And it just didn't.
No.
At all.
No, we will get to those at some point in time. I don't know. It's kind of low on my list.
Yeah,
like very low on my list. I think like Sleepaway Camp's going to happen sooner, especially for the summer. I'm hoping that we do that. Kind of a summer of horror, if you will.
Yeah,
of
but yeah, all of those are in like a big bucket of I really don't give a shit. That's why I have a hard time differentiating them because I've never really watched any of them because I don't care. Like that, there's nothing really there that's going to sell me. I mean, yeah, we'll watch it.
Oh yeah.
Just saying, in my past, there's no reason I would have ever went out of my way to watch those. Nothing interesting.
Yeah, I mean, they are like if you start naming franchises, I think Slumber Party Massacre and Sleepaway Camp are very close to the bottom of most people franchises that a lot of people I don't feel know exist. Like I feel like everyone knows the twist of Sleepaway Camp, but no one's really watched Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah, I mean, I know I don't think I've ever watched it all the way through for sure.
Yeah,
I've seen parts of it. Again, wasn't a thing that I really cared about.
Yeah, they came before number 5 came out. They came out with the 4th set, and I do happen to have them on DVD. The wife actually thoroughly enjoys the Sleepaway Camp series because it's so cheesy and stupid.
Yeah, then I'll probably not like it.
No, you're not gonna like them. I can guarantee that one right now. But we're going to go a little bit into the audience, or I want to call it participation, but reactions. And, like this seems to be like everyone seemed to know Slumber Party Massacre. Wouldn't you agree? It felt like everyone knew.
Well, enough people knew. Sure.
Yeah. But it was just interesting. I had the two guys sitting next to me. I don't think it's not like a guy who brought his friend who has never seen any of these movies, and they were just. I heard them discussing. It's like I've never seen this. Like this is awful.
Well, if you think Slumber Party Massacre is awful, I would hate for him to get further into the horror genre because it gets worse.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I said, this is an elevated, good version of the cheesy slasher of that time.
Yeah.
And it gets worse from here, dude. Don't step any further.
No, like I said, it was something that I'm not mad to have seen it. Like I said, I'm glad we sponsored Black Christmas. Of all the movies, my second choice would have been Reanimator.
Right.
But definitely not Slumber Party Massacre.
For sure, yeah.
No, like I said, it has its place. It fits right in with like what would have been like the straight to cassette era of the 80s.
Well, yeah, it's the precursor to.
Yes. Yeah, so I mean, obviously, but yeah, you were surprised that it was better than number 2. Obviously, I don't think anything in the franchise is worse than number 2 in the Slumber Party Massacre franchise.
Again, that was all I ever needed to see. I was like, I'm done. No more.
Yeah, and yeah, the creepiness of what was there. It's a little weird at times. But no, like I said, we'll get into ratings when we get to that franchise. Yeah, do you want to discuss? Move on to Reanimator then. Or
sure.
Any other discussion points on Slumber Party Massacre?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Reanimator. I mean, I guess the interesting thing there would be when he's like, okay, everybody, raise your hand, people who haven't seen this before. And I would say over half the theater raised their hand. It was a lot.
And how many people do you think are in the theater? 200?
No, not that. Well, I mean, I don't think it's that many, but it's probably not that far off. Probably 100 and something.
Like 100, maybe like 175 or something like that, like the maximum occupancy. But
yeah. Something like that. But yeah, I was very surprised. Oh, okay. I'm very surprised at people coming to this event.
Yes.
Right? Like, you'd imagine people coming to this event have seen all of the, like, quote unquote, like, mainstream movies. And I would say Reanimator is pretty, if you're into the horror genre, you've seen Reanimator. Like, it's one of the movies that people sell all the time. Like, yes. I see people wearing the shirts all the time.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a popular movie in the franchise. Like, if you're talking Slumber Party Massacre, it's a pretty overall generic. Like, I wouldn't be that surprised if you haven't seen it because, there's a lot of similar movies. But, like, Reanimator is, unique, and it's the kind of movie you have to watch to understand.
Oh, absolutely. And it's,
Right.
we discussed it, briefly when we talked about H.P. Lovecraft. It is an H.P. Lovecraft story, and essentially his take on Frankenstein.
Yeah, right. His darker take on reanimation. Just again, I'm sure it sounded like the guy had more to his speech, right?
Oh, yes.
The guy who introed, I'm sorry, I don't remember his name. He said he was from RogerEbert.com, I think.
Well,
He's
we had Barry, the overly sugared guy.
Yeah, the House of Movie Monsters guy, right? Right. Yeah, he introed it, and they sponsored a monster cereal thing. Yeah. We left before that happened, but they did it last year too.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll discuss that a little bit. We left when it was happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
About the same time we left last year too, as well.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Because it's like it's like that sugar rush before the last couple of movies to keep people moving, right?
Yeah.
So he was up there, and then he had a guy actually come up to intro the movie. And he just talked about whatever the critical thing and him going to see it as a kid and stuff. And again, he asked how many people here have seen the movie. And so many people raised their hands that I think he cut off his speech early because he was kind of shocked. He's like, I'm not gonna, anything. Yeah, he's like, I'm not going to I'm not going to say anything else because this is something you really need to see for yourself. And it's very true. Yeah, if you've never seen it, yeah, I get it. I was just very shocked. This crowd, that many people had not seen.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like a lot of people would be in our boat of cheesy horror fandom, especially for this lineup of movies.
Well, me technically would have been in that group, but I did not know I was in there. We discussed briefly before, is I thought I had seen Reanimator for years,
right?
But I had actually seen From Beyond, which was made almost at the same time as Reanimator with the same people. And literally same crew and production and director and actors. It's literally the same exact people. And it's an H.P. Lovecraft story.
Yes.
And it's Jeffrey Combs is the main character.
Yep.
And it's got to do with blood and guts and weird, stuff like that. I just assumed that was Reanimator. And it wasn't. It was From Beyond. So I technically had not seen Reanimator, but I was not aware of it.
Yeah. But I mean, as the guy pointed out, we even saw, the From Beyond trailer before, Reanimator, because it's the same guy. And I thought that was cool that we were watching the trailer for as well. And, but the crowd reaction, a lot of people were, rooting and laughing and applauding at a lot of points in this movie. You know what I mean? And to me, that's the reaction you would have from people that are veterans of Reanimator.
Well, again, when you get to this level of stuff, when it's an old movie and people go to the theater to see it, yeah, there's usually a level of interaction involved.
Right. But yeah, I mean, they had a lot of people the same reaction in some part of Massacre. Obviously when Brink's name appeared, because we knew she was there.
Right.
Hooting and hollering. It was good fun.
And not many people actually applauded when she showed up on screen, because I don't think they recognized her, honestly.
No.
It took me a minute to go, which one is she?
Right. Yeah, I knew she was a smaller role, and I knew she wasn't one of the main girls. I'd forgotten that she was what?
I mean, I figured it out, but it was after she was on screen for a few minutes, and at that point, it's not oh yeah, I'm not gonna clap at 2 minutes because people are like, the fuck is this guy doing?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's why people clap at the name, obviously, because they read, but I don't think they recognized her. That's why they didn't clap the first time she showed up.
Yeah, and Reanimator is really a classic, and I'm excited to do the franchise. I know they've been in talks with number 4 forever. They were gonna do I knew there's gonna be Reanimator where he took over the president, and then Bush got elected. Like, oh, it's already happened. Never mind. I think it was like Reanimator in the White House or something.
I don't know.
But no, I mean, it was nice, seeing these movies, especially on the big screen, and getting the opportunity to do this. I think Reanimator did really, really well on the big screen. Something that was I alive technically when Reanimator came out? Yes. Was I old enough to see it? Would have known it? No. But I'm definitely glad we were able to see it in a movie theater.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, yeah, it's this theater is nice to see these movies on. I mean, yeah, the sound, the picture is good.
Oh yeah, yeah. The sound, I thought production wise, it was better this year than last year. It felt better. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, it felt more together. Well, because last year, because we had Child's Play 2 failures
multiple times.
there was a freeze, and what was the freeze? It was in Black Christmas. It was like the screen froze for like literally a second and a half. It was not long at all, and everybody was like, "Oh no!" And then it immediately stopped, and it was fun.
I felt like it's because they remembered last year,
right?
Because Child's Play 2, it froze, and then like, oh, we have to go back 3 chapters of the DVD.
Right? Yeah, it froze up, and then they had to rewind, and then they played it again. How many times did they? I think they did it 3 times.
Yeah. And
then they just realized it's not going to happen.
Yep. Yeah. So, no, like I said, Reanimator is a cheesy good movie. Like Jeffrey Combs is Herbert West. He was made for that character. I feel like.
Yeah.
And he's not even really the main character, really in the at least this movie.
I mean, he is. I would say overall he is, but I would say most of the plot doesn't require his presence.
No.
I mean, but like without him, there is no reagent. So I would say he's the main character, but again, he doesn't have to be present all the time.
Yeah, that's very true. And have you noticed that there's in all 3 of these movies, there's a cat that they interact with? But this time in Reanimator, they kill the cat and bring it back.
There's always a cat. Cats everywhere.
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm very glad I saw this in theaters. It's just an old movie that deserves it. And, yeah, it's probably arguably the most known movie that was at the franchise, at the marathon yesterday. Of all of them. Like, if you say... Party Massacre, people are like, nah, I don't know what that is. Black Christmas, I don't know what that is. Critters, probably not. Nosferatu, maybe. But then you go Reanimator, it's like, yeah.
I'd say if you're in the horror genre, you've heard the names. You may not have watched them, but you've heard the names.
Yeah.
Again, I wasn't that heavy into horror, and I've heard all the well, I'm not gonna say all of them, but I've heard most of the franchise names. There's a lot of them I've never watched because I have no interest in watching them. But I've at least heard the names.
Right. Yeah, I know. There's a handful of franchises that we will get to that I know you haven't watched.
Oh yeah, there's quite a few.
Yeah,
but I've heard of them.
Right. And there's ones that I haven't seen all of, and we get to Texas Chainsaw. That's one I haven't seen all of them in.
See, I've seen all of them.
So, all right. Well, let's discuss Black Christmas. I know for anyone listening, go back and listen to our full-on lengthy discussion on the movie, the highs and lows and everything like that. And, so this year I had some courage and went up and introduced myself and what we do to the crowd. And it was nerve-wracking. As the guy said, he's like, you can't see shit up there. Like, I felt like I was just talking to the light.
Well, yeah, it's supposed to be that way.
Yeah.
Otherwise, because if you went up there with no lights, they couldn't see you.
Yeah, and you said I did okay.
You did great, buddy. You were fantastic.
So nervous, and I would have thought, granted, I'm not interacting with like live people with all the other stuff I do, and it is enough to have me have a little bit of confidence. Should I have taken note cards up there? Maybe.
I said next time we'll just pay somebody to go up there and read the note cards for us.
Yeah, we can write the notes. Like, here's what we want you to say.
Right.
Go, please, go talk to people for
Exactly.
us. But no, I the movie was, like I said, the movie's great. It is the grandfather of at least most slashers, and Halloween kind of honed it, as we discussed before. Halloween kind of honed the holiday slasher and ran with it, but I don't think it could have done it without Black Christmas.
No, I mean, I think we talked about this before. This started a lot of stuff. I mean,
yes.
Again, you watch this movie now and you're like, oh, this is like your basic tropey movie, and it's like, well, this was the movie that the tropes were based off of.
Yes,
like
absolutely.
The call is coming from inside the house. Like, how many movies have done that since then? But that was the first one.
Yeah, and it's amazing that people probably don't know that. It's just become part of. It's become such a pop culture thing that most people know and most people parody it, and it's from this movie. And it is a fantastic movie. It is. We love here at our podcast. We love bad endings. And this is truly a bad ending.
Right. Yeah, you really felt it in the theater. Everybody's like, really?
Yeah.
That's it? Like, there's no end. Like, people didn't even know when to clap. They're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. And let's kind of go into that. With Reanimator and Slumber Party Massacre, there's cheers, there's clapping. It was mostly silent this entire movie.
Right. And you think, like, oh, maybe everybody's asleep and it's late and they're bored or something. But, like, again, as soon as that froze for like a second and a half, like, everybody's like, no! Like, you heard them all.
Yeah.
So it was like everybody was very engaged with the movie. Because I don't think Black Christmas, again, is not a movie that I watched. Again, it was like, oh, why do I want to watch a holiday-themed fucking slasher movie? Like, I have no desire to do that.
Right. Yeah.
Which is why I didn't watch it before then. But again, the movie is great. It's a fantastic movie. And I think it's probably what happened is the same thing that happened to me is most people avoided it if they heard of it. Again, it's a pretty obscure. It's not a movie that everybody would have heard of. But if you haven't seen it before, it's very engaging because you're like, wow, this is way better than I thought it was going to be. Like, there's real character arcs. You know what I mean? There's like
tons.
Yeah. I mean, again, for 74, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I just pulled off so we can tell people here, our number of peepholes that we used then. I gave this a 9 peepholes on 10. You gave this an 8. And it still is nice seeing it for me once again on the big screen. Neither of us were alive for this original movie.
Yeah, no. This is before the first Star Wars movie, for Christ's sake.
Yeah. So, it's almost 50 years. And it's, as we discussed before, the whole abortion thing, the Roe v. Wade. And as we discussed, horror is the insight into, the culture's fears and worries at that point in time.
Well, that's how it goes. Porn drives the technology, right?
Right.
And then horror drives like stereotypes and culture.
Yes.
It always happens in horror first before it happens in anything else. They like test the waters with horror because it's easy to fail with horror because they're pretty cheap.
Right.
And easy to make. So if you fail, like, whatever. So like that's why you always find like whatever you're into, you'll find a horror movie that caters to that in some way, shape, or form. Like always. It's almost like Rule 30.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. It's amazing. And, as you said, people being captivated by this and just like, we're just like heartbroken. It felt like when the movie ended.
Right. Well, yeah, it is that kind of ending where you're like, wow, that is depressing.
Yeah. But it needed it. For 74 and that bad ending, like, I'm surprised they got away with it.
Well, again, yeah, they're building up. Again, you can tell they were, it's again, we use the term elevated horror, but it really is. It's horror with a like a drama over the top. Like there's actual like real background story stuff happening.
Yeah. Yeah, and even, Officer, Nash, who was a just complete idiot.
Right. No, I mean, yeah, there's always you got to be your, horror, comedy section.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously Mrs. Mac being just a drunk and just drinking our sherry, which is disgusting.
Not something I can say I've drank straight sherry before.
Right. And as we discussed before, just the language being used to talk to these women was, even today, is absurd.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, hearing that like a first obscene phone call where he, spits out the C word like at least like 3 times.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's pretty rough.
Right. And it like I said, the movie is great. There was that hint of intrigue as, was Peter the killer? Wasn't he? Who could it possibly be? And like I said, that ending though, like, the dad being in shock, and they didn't find at least 2 bodies that are still up in the attic
with the killer. Right.
Yeah. And just the stupidity that they have of like, hey, a cop was killed in the car outside the house, and everyone leave except for one cop.
Yeah, and then the cop stands on the front porch, like not even in the house.
Right. And something that I was thinking about watching, I'm like, did we even assume that Billy killed the 13-year-old girl, or was just some other random murder in the same
unknown? Who knows?
Right.
Because like, yeah, they show him. I mean, I don't know, because it's up in the air, because the girl died that day.
Right.
And the movie starts the day before.
Yeah.
So he has probably been in the attic all night.
Right. And the mom says she's only been missing it. Yeah. Right.
Right. So what's the likelihood of him coming out of the attic to go to the park to murder a girl and then go back to the attic? Very
unlikely.
Right. So I would say that's probably another one.
So some other random murder that happened.
Right.
In that, we discussed the tropes, the carolers, right?
That's really, the carolers are really like the only like Christmassy thing in this movie.
Yeah.
Other than that, there's Christmas decorations, but it's not really like mentioned or talked about in any way.
Right.
Well, other than the Santa Claus.
Yeah.
That swears at children.
Yeah, and Margot Kidder just giving kids booze and getting them drunk.
Right. But I mean, yeah, like that's the only like thing. But that is not even like a major thing. It was just something that they were doing and why they weren't in the house.
Right.
And then the caroling thing is the only really like Christmassy thing happening. Other than that, it's pretty separated from Christmas.
Yeah, and I like that, like, Officer Nash is so blunt. He's just like telling everyone, yeah, a girl's murdered. Like, we're busy. Sorry, someone was murdered.
Right.
Good
job, Officer Nash.
Right, and obviously the hot phone tracing 3 scenes that we.
Yeah. Click, 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 click.
Yeah. All right, so let's go. Move on to a little bit about the vendors. As once again, lack of laser discs.
Yeah. Although, you know what? There was a lot of VHS there.
There was a lot of VHS there.
I think VHS is really big in the horror realm. It's been gaining popularity. I think just because of the whole video being the kind of home for horror during the 80s, and the 80s being the whole the kind of mecca for all these goofy horror movies that existed.
Oh yeah, I mean that's there, as we discussed before, there are so many movies that went straight to VHS in the 80s that have yet to ever be released even on DVD.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing to that. I'd love to collect.
There's some that they were on VHS and then they made the big jump to Laserdisc and then they never released the DVD ever.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite movies, Hardware. Was on VHS. It came out on Laserdisc and then completely skipped DVD.
Yeah.
Never released on DVD at all. And then eventually it released on Blu-ray. But we're talking years later.
Right. And it's just, like I said, I briefly looked at the vendors. We didn't do walk-arounds this year because it really wasn't that interesting vendor-wise, unfortunately.
Well, there was also more people there this year.
There was a lot more people.
Yeah, so it was, I didn't really want to elbow muscle my way in there.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things that looked interesting that I would want to go in and touch and play with, but there's a lot of people there.
Yes.
Again, I'm not great with a lot of people around me, so I was like, that nothing's cool enough where I need to get in my hands in there.
Right.
I admired from afar, but there's a lot of cool looking stuff.
Yeah. And we didn't bring anything last year. I brought shirts.
Yeah, I brought some shirts, and I think didn't you brought something else? Did you bring like koozies or something?
No, I got koozies for a con earlier this year. I think I just did the shirts. I sent obviously last time I stood in front and handed them out, but I didn't say anything. But this year we did posters. We did themed posters. They're relatively cheap to get, and just made them event posters with our QR code on them. And they're for the event, so we didn't charge anything. Posters were for sale there, but it's still nice to do. Hopefully, some people took them. I hope. But other than that, he also made postcards with our QR code there. Horror Dad's production as well, and just a couple other friends from other stuff that I do, and stuff that I want to bring as hopefully we go to some horror conventions in 2024. Just kind of help spread our word of what we do. But I took those back. And then we could discuss the sugar cereal, that line, those group of people that we had to get through when we left were all for the cereal.
Oh yeah, I was pretty sure of that.
And like that, I understand that's something they do, and it's cool that they do it. It's all the Boo Berries and all the Halloween cereals, and people are seemingly going insane for it.
Well, okay, it's free food. One,
right?
People go crazy for any kind of free food. It doesn't matter what it is. Especially if it's like themed after like what you're doing, people get very excited.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's free fucking food themed after the thing that you're there for. Yeah, it's a thing. It's an event.
Yeah, and as you said, getting the sugar because it was about midnight.
Well, yeah, it was like 11-ish, like 11:15.
Yeah, and they still had another 2.5, 3 hours there.
Right. Yeah, there's 2 more movies.
Right. So, but yeah, I mean that's cool. I don't think it's something I'd want to do ever. Hand it out.
Oh no,
no.
I'll pay people to do that.
Right. Let's go into so that's kind of the vendors there. But let's go into the trailers. They had a trailer contest. I don't think they had that last year. They
did.
Did they?
I don't think it was a trailer contest. I think it was a short film contest last year.
Yeah, because I think there were more short films last year.
Yeah, well, I think there was. I think there was some earlier in the day.
Maybe
because when we first came in, they were playing that short film that Brink Stevens was in. That she brought with her. Yeah,
right.
I think it was The Night Jane Went Insane. I think was the name of it.
Yeah.
So I think there was some earlier in the day. I don't know if there's a competition about it, but there's some earlier in the day.
Yeah, but
usually they have something like that.
Right. And this is supposed to be 1950s trailers. How did you feel? Like, someone is typing or leaving a comment, right? Definitely not 50s era stuff.
Well, again,
it was shot in the style of it.
Well, that's how you give people like a research paper on a subject, right? They're not necessarily going to write it exactly the way you imagined it.
Right.
They're going to take that theme that you give them or that they pick, and they're going to go in a different, interesting direction. That's what they did. So it was like someone's typing a comment, but in 50s style, right?
Yes.
Again, they're interpreting the because it's literally probably just said 50s trailer competition, right?
Yes.
So like they did it of a modern movie in a 50s style, which is fair. Obviously, it got in the competitions. Obviously, it meets the criteria.
Right. I mean, I liked the style of it, and it seemed like a very interesting trailer to me.
Yeah.
I
think a couple of them there. Just I felt like we're getting a little too into the weird political world. I don't think it needed to go that far. Like I don't know. I get trying to make a political statement, but they were like blatantly saying it.
Yes.
Like this is a very short trailer, dude. Like dial it back a little bit.
Yeah. What was the other one? Is like, I'm watching you.
I'm following you.
I'm following you. Was interesting. It felt more like, to me, like an early 70s trailer,
Right.
personally.
Yeah.
Especially being in color.
Well, again, yeah, if you get sound like an old man now. If you get like young kids, right? And you say do things in an old-timey movie trailer way, to them, to them, okay, somebody who was born in the 2000s, you tell them the difference between 50s and 70s, and to them it doesn't, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't, you don't see that difference because you weren't as close to it as we were.
Right.
So like me, I know the difference because, when I was younger, I watched this stuff and I knew the difference then.
Right.
But like to them, it's like they're jumping in when there's so much history already. It's hard for them to differentiate. So yeah, no doubts that's probably what happened.
Yeah. I mean, that one didn't, like, if that was a movie, I don't think I would have watched it as a movie.
Well, I don't think it could have been a movie. There was no like plot other than literally a person following another person.
All modes of transportation.
Yeah, that's it.
Then they had Honor Thy Father.
Right. And again, this is the second one that was like very weirdly political, and I'm like, what is going on? Like the bad guy's name was QAnon. It's like, dude, okay, I get it. Yeah, it's like I get it. I understand, but you don't need to put it like directly in the movie. Like you're just trying to upset people.
Yeah.
There are ways to do things without, being blatant about it.
Right. But the one that won, I was in Teenage Lobster Monster.
Yeah.
I think, yes, would people call it woke? Absolutely. But was it a 50s trailer? And was it the creature feature?
Well, okay.
Absolutely.
Here's the thing. Was it really woke? No.
But
not at all. It was the one that followed the 50s trailer the closest. They did
absolutely
the best job. The only thing that was quote unquote woke about it is that instead of a teenage guy and girl couple, it was two guys.
Yes.
That's it. That's the only, like, they did not do anything woke-ish in it other than just being men. That was it.
Yes.
So I wouldn't call it woke. I would call it, if you're on a certain, political spectrum, yeah, you probably would. But really, it's not. It's just, gay guys. That's it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. But I think they also followed the rules best, and I thought they did the best, too. They deserved it.
Oh, yeah. It really felt like, because, I was a Teenage Lobster Monster. Obviously, it was, a play on words that happened in the 50s, and it was sort of turning into a creature or to an animal, which was very common in the 50s and 60s for sci-fi movies in particular, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yes, it absolutely was the best, feeling. It felt like the 50s, and it looked like the 50s, and it was the creature feature of the 50s. I feel like they did the most homework on it.
Well, yeah, they're the ones who listened to the project and made it according to, like, I think what they were looking.
Yeah. Definitely the longest trailer. I don't know. I thought it was quite long. I felt.
Yeah.
It felt long.
I think it felt long because it was unwelcome after a while. It wore out its welcome, and I was just like, okay, we can be done with this. Just like someone's typing a comment. Again, it was too long.
Yeah.
Like that would have been funny as like a, like TikTok right? Like
Right.
that
Oh,
length.
yeah.
And like it was like an extra minute, 2 minutes or something on it that didn't need to be there.
Right. So no, like I said, yeah, we agree that the one, I was in Teenage Lobster Monster. For us, I feel like a lot of people, hopefully as well, that's why they voted for it, was because it felt the most.
Yeah, no, again, they listened to the project. They listened to the assignment, and they performed exactly what they're supposed to do.
Like, and I can see that being the movie. I can absolutely see that being the movie.
Yeah. No, and again, it was, the interesting, the modern twist on it is just that it's, obviously a movie with two men in a romantic lead would never happen in the 50s, and that's the interesting modern twist.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, it was interesting. I had reached out to the people that I knew to see if they wanted to do it, but they weren't going to have time. So no, I mean, it'd be interesting to see what they do next year. Do contests like that would be pretty cool. And I think their prize was a mystery box, I believe. Or a bag of goodies or something.
Yeah, no, it was, they got like a swag bag. I don't know what was in there.
No.
I don't know what the prize actually was, but yeah, they got something interesting.
Yeah. But this year, you got the mystery box. Why don't you tell us what was in it?
Oh, yeah, the Massacre mystery box. Well, you got one last year. But so this year, let's see, everything that was in there. There was 2 posters, like legal size posters. One was Hellboy, and it was signed by Doug Jones, who played Abe Sapien in that movie. And the other one was the David Cronenberg movie, like his first movie. Like it's Inside of Us, or so, what was the hell whatever. It's something like
They Came From Within.
They Came From Within. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a poster with that on like good thick paper. There was 3 DVDs in there. It was Resident Evil, the first one, Wolf Creek, and Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, those are good movies. I mean,
yeah. There was an old Ghost Rider comic in there. I didn't take it out of the plastic, but I can tell just by the way that the issue number and the price and everything was on it that it was from like the 90s era of Marvel Comics. It's like Ghost Rider Annual #2, I think, or something.
Okay.
That was in there, like with the plastic and the board and everything. There was like a ring pop in there.
Yep.
Like a blinking ring pop that was in there. There's a whole bunch of stickers, like all kinds of random stickers in there.
Yeah.
And there was 2 rosaries from the Pope's Exorcist. So I got one of those for you next time I see you.
Oh, thank you.
You can have a plastic rosary that the Pope's Exorcist branded on it.
The thing is plastic. It might burn me.
Right. Oh, and a Nancy Drew book. A hardcover little Nancy Drew book was in there.
Yeah. I mean,
what was it? It's called like The Invisible Intruder.
Ooh.
Number 46 if you're a Nancy Drew fan.
Oh, man. Now if you could get the first 45.
Yeah, now you got to get the first 45.
I mean, like I said, we didn't pay anything for the swag, for the mystery box.
Well, no, we didn't, but I believe it was like $35. So is that a good deal for $35? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, also there was a Jason mask.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like a plastic, like the cheapest level one you can get.
Yeah.
But it was in there. But, like the plastic mask with the little, what do you call that?
Yeah.
Stretchy band in the back.
Yeah. Yeah, I know I had a comic in mind. Nothing signed. But I did get a American Psycho Blu-ray for my last year.
Nice.
And candy and stickers and stuff like that. I still have the box. It's literally sitting to the left of me right.
So
I haven't done anything with it.
Yeah. Is it worth $35? Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch. Yeah, if you like horror-y type stuff, yeah, it's definitely. I can't say I'm a Nancy Drew fan, but I do like books, so that is fair. I put it on my bookshelf.
There you go. Start your collection now.
Yeah, I do have some old Hardy Boys from still when I was a kid. I still have a couple of them.
Oh, wow.
And one of them is funny because it was one of those books that, I was in 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this was like, I don't know, 1980, 1988 probably. Anyway, so I was in 5th grade and I took it, my 5th grade teacher had this little, like, one of those spinny racks.
Yeah.
And she had a bunch of books in there. It was like, if for whatever reason they had a free time and you didn't have anything to do, you could like take a book and read it. And she wrote her name inside of all the books so that she knew which books were hers.
Right.
And I must have accidentally taken it, or maybe I did on purpose. I don't remember, honestly. But her name is still written in that book.
Did you find her? I got your book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, it's cool. They didn't give it to me last year. They mailed it to me. It's like, oh, we forgot to give this to you. That's still cool though. Yeah. Let's discuss, the venue a little bit. We discussed it a bit last year. This year, one of your first comments was the chairs seem nicer.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember the chairs last year. I thought they were just like regular theater chairs. Am I wrong? Do you remember?
I thought we sat in folding chairs last year.
No,
at
it
least for
weren't
part
folding
of it.
chairs. I think they were just generic theater chairs.
Yeah.
Like the old time, I'm not old timey, but you know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like the old school ones that they used to just pack people in with.
Yeah.
And this time they had like, big, like upholstered back chairs. Like, I mean, they're not like the full recliner, fancy heated ones and stuff, but
right. Yeah.
they were. I thought they were different. I may be wrong. I don't know.
I felt they were different too.
Yeah. I sat down and I'm like, I'm pretty sure they weren't this nice last year because I don't remember being this comfortable last year.
No, it felt uncomfortable last year.
Yeah, but I don't know if they upgraded the chairs or if I'm just hallucinating. I don't know. I have no idea.
I mean, it was a year ago. We've talked a lot of stuff since then. So
yeah.
No, but I did definitely seem nicer. I feel bad not remembering all the people's names that run it. I talked to, through Facebook, I talked to the venue. I don't know who I'm talking to through it. And, I had asked them there. I had asked them through Facebook, because we're starting the Conversations in the Void interview thing. I'm like, hey, would you guys want to come on to discuss what it takes to do something like this? What the planning, the rights? I'm sure they have to pay something to play these movies in theaters again.
Yeah, well, I'm assuming they do, like, because like theaters will rent out a theater.
Right.
I'm assuming that's what they do, is they just rent out the theater for the day.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, I honestly, I've never done it. I've never seen the receipt for someone that has done something like this. I don't know how much that would cost, but I can't imagine it's cheap.
Oh no, there's no way. There's no way it's cheap.
Because they would have to factor in, like, what's the average of? Well, and again, it's on a Saturday night,
right?
So like, you'd have to factor in what's the average that they would make out of one theater on a Saturday night,
right?
And then I would imagine it starts there.
Yeah. But I'd love to see and listen to their process of what they do and how they determine what movies.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, I'm sure a movie's picked on by whoever they can get as the guest to be.
Well, I'm sure one of that is that thing, and then a part of it is also picking ones that you like. Do you have to get like the rights to that to show movies in a movie marathon? I don't know how that works.
No,
just play anybody's movie, and I don't know. I have no idea how this stuff works, so I don't know what you need rights for, what you don't. I don't know. I've seen people getting sued for a lot of weird ass things. I don't know how this stuff works.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know if you can just play any movie you want. If you can play any movie you want, yeah, that's great. You can pick whatever random stuff. But
yeah, I've talked to I've talked to this before. I interviewed Lord Bloodraw, who does public domain movies because he doesn't have to pay anything to show up. So I would think there's some sort of fee that the theater has to pay.
Right. That's what I would assume, and I don't know how that works.
But what's funny is like, all of us are introverts and we wouldn't feel comfortable coming on. But like, I felt like the guy Brian that was up there talking to people was very confident in talking in front of people.
I mean, Yeah, I don't think he was like very competent, but
More confident than I was.
yeah, for sure. Yes, yes, yes. But he's
And
also
not,
been doing it for a lot longer.
yeah, and not as like maybe I just need to be hopped up on sugar like
Oh no,
Barry
it's
was.
just something you have to be comfortable doing, and if it's something you haven't done often enough, then yeah,
Right.
unless you're like an ultra extrovert that just flows right into it, yeah, it's something you have to
But
practice.
Definitely not me.
Well, right, it's something you just have to practice. That's
Right. And then let's just talk the neighborhood again. You know, the freaking Apple Fest, whatever that fest is.
Well, they didn't stop us this time. We walked right through the gate. Like,
Yes.
There's a bunch of people standing there with obvious staff shirts on, and no one said anything. Last year they did, and we were like, "We're just going to the theater," and they're like, "Okay, we'll watch you." Like they were like, you gave us that kind of side eye, like, "All right, we'll watch you."
Right.
This time though, they didn't even say anything.
Well, I noticed this time the sign said like donations are welcome.
Right.
So maybe it was a paid thing last year. I don't know. It
was. I don't know. I have no idea how that worked.
But the parking was abysmal again.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's supposed to be like a neighborhood fest, right? So it's like everybody in the neighborhood goes there. So yeah, we're obviously not from the neighborhood. So yeah, it's gonna suck for us to park. I think we did good overall. Wasn't that bad. I mean,
we parked like I think only like a street over from where we parked last time.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I believe it was just around the corner from where we
parked.
But it was what, a 5-minute walk. It's nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. But I remember last year that we had to like figure out how to get through the vendor booths and tents just to get to the theater door. Like this time I felt like there's less people at the Apple Fest. I felt like we were packed in like sardines when we walked through the crowd last year.
It's possible. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. The weather was nice, not like it was raining or anything, so I don't know what the big difference was.
Right. And then obviously anyone who lives in this area, Chicagoland driving, and people are just idiots.
Well, the problem is that when you live in the city and you drive in heavy traffic like that every day, you get desensitized to it.
Right.
And so as time goes on, you just start cutting people off and doing whatever you have to do, because again, sometimes you have to cut people off because they won't let you in. So after you desensitize yourself to that enough times, then you just do it to everyone all the time because it's easy for you now. You don't think about it.
Right.
So it's just a survival technique, I believe, for living in the city and after dealing with that every day. You just get desensitized to it, and you just have to do crappy things all the time. And don't get me wrong, there are the asshole speed demon people. That's not an adaptation. That's just you being an asshole.
Oh,
people are like, flying, weaving in and out of cars and stuff like that. I mean, one of my biggest pet peeves, I'll give myself away here, is if anyone that I'm ever talking to, okay, and I know you've heard people say this before, but if anyone that I'm talking to ever says, oh, how far away is it? Oh, it's about an hour. You're like, huh, not the way I drive. You are an asshole. And I hate you. If you ever say that with real meaning, I don't like you. Because everyone I've ever met that talks like that is a complete asshole. And those are the people that are on the highway weaving in and out of fucking traffic, going like 90 miles an hour. Cutting people off, drifting over like 4 lanes and driving on the shoulder and shit, just because they want to go as fast as possible. Those are always those people that are like, it'll only be 30 minutes the way I drive. Whatever.
Yeah.
You are what's wrong with the world, and I hate you.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the venue, the crowd. The crowd was this. I felt like the same crowd. Almost.
Yeah, lots of big guys with beards.
Yes, we fit right in.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm included in that. I'm not saying anything about like making a comment. No, that is me, and there are also many others like me.
Yeah, but there are some awesome looking shirts people are wearing.
Oh yeah, this is the event to show it off, man. Because if you go to this event, you have to be like a horror fan. Like people don't go to an event like this if you don't like horror.
Right.
It's just it would be pointless for you to go there if you're not a horror person.
Yeah, and I legit want to find that Evil Dead shirt.
Oh, the sweet button up one that guy had?
Yeah.
It was nice. It was a nice shirt.
That was nice. I wore our podcast
hands in the
shirt.
air, nice shirt, buddy. I don't know who you are or what your name is, but you had a cool Evil Dead shirt on. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I wore our podcast shirt, obviously.
I wore Man Meets Metal and Machine shirt because
Nice.
it's super cool.
So, like I said, the crowd was great. It was, I'm always concerned about like cons and stuff like that because we know the fandom sometimes, and sometimes they're not good.
They can be too much sometimes, for sure.
But no, I think it was just a great thing, and I felt like the crowd was smoother. Like getting through was smoother, even though I felt like there's more tables and vendors there.
Well,
like,
again,
I didn't feel like we were stuck.
Yeah, well, last year I believe was the first time it was at this. Well, no, I don't. I think that's wrong. It's the first time I went to it at that theater, but I don't believe it's the first time they were at that.
Yeah.
Now that again, as I say it, I was thinking back, and I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure there's at least one or two other events that I did.
Right.
But I think they're hitting their stride. How about that? They're hitting their stride at this.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they're definitely got it. So I'm excited. I want to do it again next year. How about you?
Yeah, I'm on board.
Yeah. And I'm gonna start talking to the guys. I want to get. They have what? This upcoming weekend they have the double drive-in feature way down in Indiana.
Well, yeah, okay. Yeah, we're both in Indiana, and it's still like 5 hours away.
Yes.
And we're already in the state, so yeah, it's very far away.
Right, and if you were able to, if we were able to, I would do it.
Oh, for sure. I mean, but the thing is, it's like, okay, it's a movie marathon, right? It's like what, 5 or 6 movies, right, a day? It's
Yeah.
2 days, but like you can't start the movie until it's dark because it's driving.
Yep.
So like the movie starts at like 7 p.m. right at the earliest. So like, okay, if you're watching 5 movies and they start at 7, you're up all night.
Oh,
And you can't drive 5 hours home at like 5 o'clock in the morning, right?
No.
So you're stuck there. And if you want to do that 2 nights in a row, you're stuck there for at least 3 days.
Oh yeah, yeah. I believe Liana Quigley was going to be there, which would have been cool to meet too.
Yeah.
But
Again, is that something I would like to do? Sure, but I got a dog and I live alone, so I can't really leave him here. He can't really handle himself,
right.
For 3 days.
Yeah.
I'd love to bring him with me, but he doesn't like people. So.
Yeah. I just think it'd be cool to do it again. As we discussed on the drive home, and they mentioned that this year was, if you're interested in doing stuff like that, we could help pay out the movies. And we discussed, I think we discussed it on the first episode last year too, was what we'd want to do. Your answer is Videodrome, right?
Well, yeah.
Well, we discussed Aliens, but as we discussed, the horror elitists might not appreciate that choice,
right? Because for whatever reason, sci-fi horror is like a lesser form of horror to most people. Like they're like, ugh, sci-fi horror, ugh.
Right?
I don't know why, but they do.
Would you also want to do Hardware?
Oh man, that would be amazing if I could. But Hardware is one of those movies that no one's ever heard of. It's a fantastic movie, but no one's ever heard of that movie. Like you had never even heard of it.
No.
At all. I had to make you watch it. I was like, this movie is amazing, and no one knows it exists.
Right. Yeah, and that's I think like Videodrome would be perfect for it. It is a video nasty, and it's about video nasties.
Right. Well, it's also one of those movies that like you can explain it, but until you see it, you have no clue what's going. Like what? Like you try to explain it to somebody, like, what do you mean?
Guns that cause cancer.
Yeah,
that's attached.
And he pulls the gun out of his own stomach,
right?
And it then becomes a part of his body. Like what are you talking about? And he was programmed to do this by a videotape that was inserted into the hole in his body,
right?
That was planted there by a TV signal. Like, what are you talking about?
Oh yeah, and Hardware. It's post-apocalyptic cyberpunk body horror.
Right. It's all over the place, and it is fantastic.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But I mean, but there's again, I mean, okay, there's not huge names in it, but like, who's the biggest actor in it? I believe is. God, I get my Dermots are mixed up. I have a problem with Dermots. Okay, it's Dylan McDermott and Dermot Mulrooney. I have a problem with differentiating the two of them. I believe this one is Dylan McDermott.
Yes,
yes. The Dylan McDermott is the biggest actor in this movie. But there's also like an appearance by Iggy Pop.
Yep.
There's an appearance by Lemmy from Motorhead. I mean, it's like there's like bigger, and they do cameo roles. Like they usually only do cameo roles in bigger movies. And like this movie was not a big movie at all, and they were both in it. Yeah. There's also Fields of the Nephilim. If you've ever heard of that band, probably unless you're goth, you probably never heard of it. But fantastic band. The lead singer from that is in it. He does a cameo.
Yep.
I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot to this movie. And we'll get there. I believe we're getting there soonish.
Oh,
November.
We absolutely
November,
are.
I believe we're getting there. But yeah. So if you're playing along at home, we'll get to hardware in like a month and a half.
Yes, in the Salem's Retribution month.
Yes.
Because let's face it, I portray him sometimes. But no, I said so. I'd like to talk to them again and see if we can't do Videodrome or hardware.
Hardware would be great. I mean, it is on Blu-ray, so it's like if they're playing just Blu-rays, you can play it.
You should be like, I'll bring my copy.
Yeah, bring in a giant Laserdisc copy.
Yeah.
We have to hope it doesn't, bonk the wall on the way in, or else it'll never work again. And we'll have to have somebody flip it over halfway through.
I'm saying you bring your Blu-ray copy.
Oh yeah, I definitely could do that.
For me, obviously, Evil Dead 1 or 2, not Army of Darkness, was something I would definitely want to.
I think you should
sponsor.
do the first one.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
For a horror marathon, I think the first one would fit better.
Yes, and everyone should know that one.
Well, I would hope so.
I would hope so too.
But again, I would put Evil Dead as about the same level of popularity as Reanimator in the horror world.
Oh yeah.
Well, Evil Dead probably a little more so, but again, I would if that many people didn't see Reanimator, I really want to see how many people haven't seen Evil Dead.
Oh yeah. I mean, Grant, I did see it in theaters. For the 40th anniversary, we watched. Oh, we didn't stay for Evil Dead 2, but we could have seen Evil Dead 2 in theaters, in a theater, concert hall,
kind of, sort of
projector screen.
That would have started at what time was it? Like 11 o'clock at night?
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna start watching a movie in a theater in the city at 11 at night. So.
Right. So no, like I said, I'm hoping. So I want them to get through their month of October, and then start the discussions again. See if we can do one of those three. And go from there, because especially with Evil Dead, with the actresses, the women of Evil Dead are from Michigan, so it's not that far away. They probably could get them.
Well, let's see. Start making magic happen.
And realistically, I just want their other.
Wow, what a shock!
I know, right? Yeah. So, is there anything that you'd want to see different next year? That we'd want to do different next year? What do you think?
No. Here's what I think we should do.
Mm-hmm.
We should pay someone to go up there and talk, so that neither one of us have to suffer through.
There you go.
That's what we should do. We got to find some person who likes to talk and give them money and have them go up and do it.
Yes. Yeah, and if we do it again, we sponsor it, I get posters made. Maybe be able to send it to the crew there so they can set out from the very beginning too.
Yeah, a t-shirt cannon.
There you go.
She got a t-shirt cannon.
Yes, I was thinking about that. Maybe do pins or koozies or something interesting. So we'll see. We'll
get there.
Yep. All right. Anything else you want to talk about the Massacre?
Nope. I'm good.
No? Okay. Now, we said this last time, but for reals this time, it's time to play a game. be prepared to shed some blood and bone. Join us as we join Billy the Puppet on his tricycle, endure the torture porn, and try us off our feet with the answer to the PG-13 American horror that was the mid to late 90s, early 2000s. That's right. We are going to the Saw franchise because it's time, because Saw X, at time recording, came out 2 days ago. So we have 10 movies to watch in 2 weeks for the Saw franchise. And let's hope that Saw never goes to space.
Hey, there's not necessarily a death sentence that goes to space. The Hellraiser in space wasn't that bad.
Well, most of these franchises are
for
death
sure, it is usually the worst one. But yeah, I think they could do a good Saw. Is the puppet's name really Billy the Puppet?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, whatever.
It's absolutely stupid. There is, and I will say this now, so you know, there is a post-credit scene we do go to see Saw X. So yeah, I'm excited. I know you haven't finished or seen all the Saw franchise. You just don't remember which one you stopped at.
I don't remember what I stopped at. I honestly don't. I know for a fact I've seen up to 4.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what I've seen after that. I'm pretty sure the next one that I was going to see that I didn't see was the 3D one, which I think is 6.
It is 6, yes.
So I think I've seen 5, but I'm not 100%.
If you saw Julia Benz, you saw number 5.
I don't remember. It was years ago.
Yes. So yeah, I'm kind of excited. Like I said, the franchise got dull for me pretty quick, but we'll get into that over the next couple episodes. But yeah, remember, we watch bad movies, so you don't have to. And this has been Graveyard saying, have you checked on the children?
And Salem saying, long live the new flesh.
Good night.